We are live. Welcome to another episode of Break the Rules, the Break the Rules live stream with your host, your humble host, Lev Polyakov, Lev Po on Twitter, joined by the great Giovanni Pennacchietti. Bella. And we have Tom Sauer joining us back, and we have returned with us here the wonderful, the beautiful, the extravagant Pardes Seleh. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Pardes, you are one of a kind. You've rescued yourself out of the swamp of Washington, D.C., and you are selling real estate now. Why did you... Well, first tell us a little bit about your origin story, then why you did that. For those who don't know, appeared on Fox News, you worked for Ben Shapiro, you did all kinds of very interesting things in your life.
Little Ben. Oh, sorry.
That's a good Anyway, Pardes, tell us a little bit about yourself for the people who don't know, and let's go from there.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, by the way. I'm impressed by myself hearing you. That's cool. Thanks. And I started off working for Ben. I worked at various media companies in DC, and Fox News is one of them. IJR, Washington Examiner, and a few more. And then I moved over to the PR side of things a little bit. The last 2 years that I was in DC, and then finally decided to, past year, during COVID, move to Texas and not work in politics and just, work in real estate. My goal is to make a lot of money. I don't want to be, that's what I'm going for next. But I still want to kind of be in the media space, but very independently, meaning, I don't care about who I associate with. I love all my friends, and I would never put politics over friendship and being a real, genuine person. I'm never going to be I'm not associating with these people or those people. But at the same time, I don't want to get paid for politics, because I feel like that's what ruins people's lives. My life.
It definitely did this year. I mean, Tom, I'm sure you also had various acquaintances come out of the woodwork during this past election cycle and just go mad at either yourself or friends of yours, and you saw relationships deteriorate. Oh, Tom, say that again. Okay, now I hear you.
Okay now? All right, are we okay? Let's try this audio out. Sorry,
yeah.
My fancy $400 headphones that don't work apparently. I had a lot of friends. Most of my friends who were in the military just generally kind of default lean conservative. Some may or may not like Trump. They might not have liked, it's mostly, I think the biggest thing they had against Trump was really just his aesthetics, his style, his delivery, right? Which, hey, look, there's a valid criticism there. But I think at the end of the day, when it came down to what he wanted to do, they kind of liked it. However, I got a lot of friends as well who just couldn't stand him. I got plenty of friends here in the military who are very liberal. I mean, or at least in some ways that are. And so obviously we go back and forth. I've got a ton of, I'm sure we all have, WhatsApp and Signal and text threads of various groups of friends and whatnot. And there's one we have where it's, myself and two other good friends of mine I've known for 20 years. They're still active duty. One's a lieutenant colonel in the Marines. The other's a commander in the Navy. And, we just go out and just, and they also know that I just happen to make acquaintances with folks in DC, such as the lovely Pardes. And so, and through all that.
Fun times.
Fun times, yeah. And then obviously then a lot of people, oh my God, you're friends with so-and-so and this and this and this. And it's just yeah, they're great people. They're really nice. And
by the way,
yeah.
By the way, the microphone is a little bit too quiet. Yes, something's wrong with the mic.
I'll figure this out.
It's not the end of the world kind of scenario, but something's a little bit wrong with it.
No,
but
told me.
no problem at all. But for now, when it comes to yourself, Pardes, and the relationships that you've had, I don't know, how many would you say you've had destroyed over this past election cycle?
What a question, Lev. What a question.
I want to go right in for the curveballs.
No real relationships have been destroyed.
Thank God.
Maybe a few people on Facebook unfriended me, but I would have no idea because I wouldn't have even noticed them because they weren't real friends in the first place. So, haha.
There we go. No, that's a very good quality that you keep around you.
How's the microphone now, if you don't mind me asking?
Whoa,
Better?
okay. Now it is incredibly loud, but the quality, I think, is much better.
Okay,
So,
I'll calm down. Is this okay?
it's
Beautiful.
a little bit. It's okay. Okay, fine. It's,
Yeah,
it's a
just
little
let
bit
it
on the
go.
loud side. It's fine. Maybe lower down a little bit, but it's perfect.
All right, I'll play with it.
Yeah, so it is important to keep loyal people around you. But
I
as far
will
as
say, I've
but it-
met like the coolest people ever, and like you're obviously one of them. Like Tom's one of them. I still haven't met Gio, and I'm excited to. And
Well, I don't know about that. But
yes, Gio is the Med Bull.
Sorry, my
Spelled
mind is
B-
reeling. I was going after a
V-
YouTuber last week.
iDubbbz.
Yesterday, so, yeah, I
iDubbbz.
kind of had a viral tweet. No, but how did you start off in journalism? You started off with little Ben Shapiro.
yeah, I started off working for Ben. Like my first ever introduction to politics, and I was a pre-med student in college at the time. I was like 20 when I met him, and so at 21 I started working for him, and I did that for a few years and realized like I don't want to go to med school. It's so boring and not ever get paid for the next 10 years or 12 years or whatever. So like just
So then you started journalism where nobody gets paid. So then
exactly.
And what is the behind the scenes? How is the kosher sausage made when it comes to working for Ben Shapiro?
By the way, I will say he really tried to convince me to not do it. Like he really tried to convince me to stay on the med school track and go to med school. So
was he right? Now that you have chance to look through the entire thing.
I heard he's married to a doctor.
Huh? Oh yeah, his wife is a doctor.
Married to a doctor. Yeah, he likes
He
to
speaks from firsthand experience. Well, he's right that being a writer or journalist or anything in politics is not like it's not sustainable as a career. But I think there's other ways to make money that don't involve going to med school. There's a lot of ways that I could think of, and every year I keep learning about new ways to make money. And that's I care so much about money, so that's so I'm always looking for that.
Now, when you were in the studio, was there a certain tone that you had to nail down, a certain way that people thought? And look, I know Gio may hate this, but I actually do agree with Benji on a lot of different things. But was there, you'd say, a certain, let's say, line that cannot be crossed, or did it not really work like that as far as, like, how free were you versus, let's say, because you were talking about Fox News in the recent video of yours, working for Ben, how different was it from working for Fox News or any other outlet when it came to that kind of, like, freedom of expression or whatever you want to call it?
I think it was very different because when I was working for Ben, Daily Wire we were all of 3 writers that were working under Ben. So that was like the entire company when I started. And it was like a bunch of friends and we hung out, and like it wasn't like Fox News is just a very corporate kind of place. And so if Ben found out that I said something or did something silly, he wouldn't have just like fired me or someone else. Maybe now, I don't know how Daily Wire is now because they're a lot bigger, I know, and they're probably a lot more corporate. And I think a lot of these companies, when they go corporate, like big, they change. They become more like that Fox News video I was talking about where everyone gets fired for every little thing.
Well, it happens at Vice as well. Vice used to be, I mean, Gio, being Canadian and all, Vice used to be this edgy Canadian product that did a lot of things that now, people would be calling for people's heads if they were to be doing the same thing.
They used to have articles about, literally one article was how to bang Muslim women. That was one from like 2004. Like stuff like
what
that.
Did it say?
Yeah, it was some like weird, like, pretend to convert and things like that. It was just like
that's
edgy.
Dangerous. The father's gonna chop your head off.
It was because it was an edgy, like, Gen X proto hipster magazine. Like, I mean, it's really funny how much they like hate him and think he's like a what supremacist. But like, not to defend Gavin McGinnis, I have my reservations, but he really did start like the hipster aesthetic with Vice magazine. He did that one column. what was it called? Like the
Do's and
fashion
don'ts.
column. Yeah, do's and don'ts. Yeah, that created like the aura of the hipster. But now, of course, he's one of the most canceled man in the world. I mean, he hasn't taken the title yet from Molyneux. So
he's a fucking riot, though. Like, I mean, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
First of all, can you guys hear me now? Did I fix my stuff? Am I okay now?
It's good.
Yes,
Good.
sounds
All
beautiful.
good. All right, cool.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I think Pardes probably ran into him a few times and met him, hung out with him once, twice, and so have I. And I'll tell you what, though, like, he is one of the like most, and this is one thing that Pardes can definitely attest to it because she's a blue check. She's a big deal. She's one of the, she's a big deal. And the thing is, though, is with so many of these folks, like I'd be friends with a lot of these folks, even if they weren't who they were, right? Like even if they sold shoes for a living, I'd hang out with them, be friends with them. But like Gavin is absolutely hilarious, is wild, does kind of crazy stuff. Everyone like in person, just kind of what he does. And actually, I had a story about him. I was like, he whipped it out one time, just like in front of a bunch of people, like a party, like as a joke, and it was absolutely hilarious. I dared him to. He's like, "What? Okay," and that kind of thing. And it's just like constant comedy, but he's also like very generous, very friendly. And like so many of these other folks I know, they see it's like what is portrayed online, especially by their critics and detractors. But even what you see, it's like that's not necessarily who they really are in person. So I think that, and Pardes can say, probably attest a lot of that too. It's like, it's like we have, you've got a very much a real life with all your other, issues and great things and problems and struggles that like, isn't necessarily blasted on Twitter, and it's just, I don't know, I get kind of frustrated because I see people ask about people that we know. It's like, oh, they're an asshole. There's this. And it's like, you don't fucking know these people.
Yeah, how do you know that they're an asshole? Because they yelled a little bit on YouTube or Twitter or whatever?
I mean, I did have there was a friend of mine who met
Gavin. I have
Gavin.
several ideological disagreements with a lot of them, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, I do have a friend of mine who met Gavin at an event where Milo did that art piece where he was laying naked in a pool full of blood. I don't remember what exact the theme was, but it was some art event in New York City in Brooklyn. And Gavin, he was kind of drunk there, and I think that's probably why he may give off bad vibes to some people because he likes to drink, he likes to get drunk, and when people get drunk, things can go a little bit crazy. But that's it is what it is. Yeah. But when it comes to the image of somebody like Gavin being associated with people who, let's say, back in the 20s and 30s would have been the forerunners to the SA and then the SS, people who were World War I veterans who lived through absolute hell, and then they were the ones engaging in street fights with the communists. To compare the people who lived through that kind of life to what's going on now, to a guy who on the show puts something up his butt, it's just, it's a very strange comparison. And I wonder what this even says about, as Moldbug calls it, the brown scare. The idea that there are these Nazis that are hidden deep. And look, I'm sure that there are a lot of groups out there. They've probably been infiltrated, all of them, by three-letter agencies already.
Yeah, glow in the darks.
Yeah, exactly. But still, as far as just like the actual threat that's going on right now in the country, I mean, I do see there being a possibility for anything. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that if things keep going more into the realms of clown world, then the fantasies that a lot of these people have about these fascists rising up from the ashes may actually, scarily enough, may actually occur. It's pretty much based on the amount of clown world that's going to be inflicted upon society. I really think that that's kind of the basis of it. The more clown world increases, the more there is a chance that there's going to be some fascist regime that's going to come in place of that when people just get up to here. And I am not saying that is a good thing. I think that's going to be a horrible thing if that happens. But I don't know. That's just my very doom and gloom prediction of what may happen. But I'm curious, Pardes, do you agree? Do you disagree? And same thing with Tom. Angio.
I think that people have to stop being so afraid because first of all, sharks smell fear and they get attracted to people who are afraid because they think you have something to hide. Do you think you have something to hide or be ashamed of?
No.
Well, I don't think so either. I don't think I have anything to hide or be ashamed of. And I feel like the times when I acted the most guilty for no reason, I mean, I got somehow convinced that I'm like a bad person because I'm friends with this person or that person, or I said a dumb joke or whatever. And so like the times when I somehow convinced myself that I'm a bad person and started being afraid of people, that's when I got attacked the most. And it's like, you don't even have to say anything. People smell the fear on you and they just come at you, and you get journalists coming at you. But if you have a conversation with yourself in the mirror and say like, hey, Pardes, you're a good person. You love humans and you are like just like everybody else, and you have feelings and you're a normal, nice person. Like, stop being afraid of humans that don't like that. I don't know. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of. And like,
And not only is there nothing to be afraid of, but you should embrace doing something positive like becoming a patron, because we just got a patron right now. And Pardes, this is probably thanks to you. We just got a new $5 patron. I'm going to shout out their name right now. This is amazing. I mean, this is what it's all about. It's about being a patron to break the rules. That's what it's all about at the end of the day, because we bring people together like nobody's business. But I want to make sure, though, that we, and I'm going to get their name over here real quick, but I want to make sure that I fine-tune your answer a little bit when we're talking about what exactly may happen. I know you don't have a crystal ball. I think only Brittany Venti had a crystal ball, an actual crystal ball that she showcased to us on the last stream with Styx. But
I don't know Brittany Venti, but she seems like a raging biatch. I don't know her.
She's nice. Well, she's nice.
I don't know her, and I don't know anything about her, but I literally just saw a video she made about one of my friends, and my friend told me I shouldn't say anything, so I won't say anything. But like, because my friend is like,
I know, Pardes, I know exactly what's going on. My advice: the two of them should come on BTR and settle everything. Okay, yes. That's what we should do.
I will be there also. And
you know why? Because your friend was also on BTR. Your friend was also on BTR, and so is Brittany, so this should definitely happen. And if you're watching this right now, let's make this happen. Brittany's in favor.
I don't know, Lev. I'm starting to think this through. I think maybe that would be a good idea.
You know what? I've spent the whole day trying to convince people to fight with me, and nobody wants to fight with me because I'm a girl. So if I can find girls to fight with me, that would be awesome.
BTR Catfight Edition.
Catfight.
And also part of the reason why, like, I'm just gonna say part of the reason why you got a patron is also because because the pretty girls bring the business. Let's be honest here, guys. Yes. So like it's where it's like they don't want to look at our ugly faces. Okay, so it's fine.
Your faces are beautiful.
Well, that's very kind of you. But the thing is Pardes has a following. Pardes has had stalkers. All right, are we allowed to talk about that a little bit? It's pretty funny. Okay, never mind. A stalker. It was fun. It was fun. That's actually when you and I first started hanging out, actually, because you're like we're more like acquaintances, and then like, hey, this guy. I won't go into too much detail, but like, what do I do? All this stuff, and she was talking to local police and not working. So I got a very close friend in the FBI, and I talked to him about it, and he knows who you are. Follows you on Twitter. He has an Anon account.
They call me like a year later. And they're like, hi, this is the FBI. We just wanted to see how you're doing. And I'm like,
it was like the Washington field office finally.
I could be dead by now.
Yeah, they're too busy prosecuting. They're too busy investigating like grandmas who were in the Capitol. And then instead they finally got down to like a real stalker case. So so my buddy like said, hey, do this. And he actually arranged an appointment with the FBI field office, the Washington field office. And we went, and Pardes and I went there. We were both living in DC at the time. And we like went there, and then they're like, "Oh wait, no, there's no appointment. Sorry, you can't come in." We're like, "Okay, fine." So it didn't really go anywhere, but we'll leave it at that.
I appreciate it a lot.
We'll leave it. It was interesting. It was fun, but so Pardes has many fans. Some of them are really big fans. So.
And by the way, Paul is east of the Pecos or Pesos. That is the name of the person who became our patron for $5. Once again, thank you so much. And we have a D-Live thumbs up from Warrior watching on D-Live. So don't forget, guys, we are live streaming this on D-Live, on Facebook, on Twitch, on YouTube. We are doing this everywhere. On Odyssey. We are live streaming this on Odyssey, which is a great platform that you guys should join. I'm going to post the link in a bit. But back to the crystal ball question. If you, Pardes, had a crystal ball and you were to look into that crystal ball, would you see that a lot of this nonsense that's going on right now with the mass censorship, with all the things that people cannot openly criticize lest they get fired. Do you think that there's going to come a point where it's going to get so much and so crazy that the worst nightmare of the people who, like, you know, try to imagine that there is a fascist underneath every pillow, that those fascists would actually be made on account of people having had enough and see the only recourse as being that? And I hope that's not going to happen, but, like, would there be any point at which that would seem to be like the desperate option left if things get too horrible?
I think some fascists will be made, but also there's going to be a ton of people that will break through it. And like, people are always like, you know, again, another conversation today. Pardes, your deplatform is coming. What am I going to be deplatformed on? But like, even if Twitter were to deplatform everybody and their mom, like, who cares? There's going to be, that's actually a bigger sign that there's going to be more and greater things out there. And there are already, you know, like, things are, Twitter is not forever. Twitter is actually a very new website. You know, like, if you think about it, it hasn't been around for so long.
12, 13 years, I think, something like that, since 2007-ish.
Yeah, and like, it's not going to be around forever. I mean, you know, people are using Discord. 4chan's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
I know.
It's not the same. It's not. I think that's the. Well, sorry, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
It's not the same, but there's always going to be like other stuff. And there's always like, just because you've been deplatformed, it doesn't mean that you've disappeared. It's just and like, I'm not trying to say it's going to be fine and dandy, but I think that there's so many people like that think the same way that you do, that like, you have a network. It doesn't have to be on Twitter.
But whatever network you're going to have, the big concern is that one after another, it's going to be shut down if it's not going to have servers somewhere, like in a country, you know, that's not going to be connected with the United States, for example. Like, there are certain things that people are trying to fix, like, I don't know, Urbit. Like, Geo, isn't Urbit trying to address some of these bigger infrastructural problems, as opposed to just, well, this side is down, so we're now going to go to another one?
Well, not really, because, I mean, maybe, but Urbit, it's still very limited to, like, tech nerds that are able to code and things like that. Like, there's
everything is
a very high ceiling of engagement. You know what I mean? Like, that's... Which in some ways, that's what the internet started off as.
Exactly.
I mean, that's, you know.
Well, that gives me hope right there. But I want to bring the same question to Tom, because again, we don't have World War I veterans right now who are going to street fights. We have people LARPing, putting on costumes, but at the same time, the street fights that were experienced back during the summertime, you know, and several summers before as well, I wouldn't say it's a joke. People actually got hurt. People actually, you know, suffered from the riots that were going on, summer 2020 and all that. So do you think that there is going to be a boiling point at which people will, you know, not really see any way out other than having to physically confront, which I hope is not going to happen?
I don't think so, or I think it would have to get a whole lot worse. And I'd say that because a lot of these things that you see, a lot of these protests, these fights, right, it definitely is the LARPing. The problem is it's getting amplified. It's getting a lot more attention than it probably would deserve. And so it's getting, you know, it's being beamed into people's phones and on their TVs all the time. But I don't really think it's like, okay, like, compare this, if you like read some recent history and talk to your parents, your grandparents, right? And like what the civil rights movement was like, right? Now, no matter where you fall on any of that stuff, right? It's like things were a lot worse during those times. Like when we talk about like race riots and then anti-war protests, things were a lot bigger and a lot more people were really, really motivated. And right now it's like, people see these fights going on and they talk about Proud Boys and Antifa. I'd say that one of the things that's really interesting to think about is, like, I talk to a lot of people, and I'm assuming you guys do too, people who aren't on Twitter, right? Like there's a lot of folks that like aren't on Twitter. Like I don't have many friends or family that are on Twitter. The only reason they're even on Twitter at all is because like I'm on there and they create accounts because they see funny stuff that I said or whatever, they think it's interesting. But like that's it. And I think it's only like 6 or 7% of Americans have a Twitter account or something like that. It's not that many compared to Facebook or Instagram. And whereas like Facebook and Instagram is more about personal, it's your friends and family. You can't really communicate too much with people if you're not friends with them or at least connected with them. And then you might have that ridiculous long, Facebook debate or argument with your cousin you haven't seen in years or whatever. But the thing is, like the vast majority of folks don't really follow a lot of this stuff. They're not like very online. Now, granted, they are watching CNN and Fox, right? Or MSNBC or like the big networks. They see stuff on like New York Times. They see that. But what's really good, I think the really good sign is that so many Americans today, like look at all the polling, I can't spit out any numbers or anything like that, like just don't trust the media, the corporate media. They just don't trust it. So a lot of folks are like, yeah, things are kind of crazy. I'm not sure. But the everyday people I talk to is like around here and other places, like it's
Nobody
not
here
as big
cares.
of a concern.
Nobody in Texas cares.
No.
People in Texas don't care.
But it's like it very much is, because just because like somebody has a lot of followers on Twitter doesn't mean you walk down the street and people know who you are. You're not really that much celebrity. I think like one time Natalie and I got spotted at a restaurant, just weird happenstance in Anaheim, and somebody saw like, hey, are you Tom's huh? Hey, I follow you on Twitter. And I'm like, holy shit. I was like, oh my God. I only had like 12,000 followers or something like that at the time. And I was like, oh my God, Natalie, come here. Look, they know us. Like, yeah, it's just. And it was just like, it was kind of exciting, but it was like, that was more random than anything else. And even when we go to things like big events, like Trump events or conservative events, media events like CPAC and anything like that, even then, people who are like very online, right? They follow this stuff, like don't necessarily know who you are, really care or anything like that. And it's like, people just don't follow as much stuff. So like one thing to kind of realize is that we are very much, even us here on this thing, we're very much a niche. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like the same niche as like people who like really follow baseball or something. Who like get into it, like who's traded this and his ERA, this guy's batting like, I like baseball, sure, but I couldn't tell you the starting lineup of like the Yankees or the Dodgers right now. I just can't. But like, yeah, baseball, yeah. Does it make sense? Do you guys follow? Like, so basically, like what I'm saying is that I think we're going to be just fine when it comes to what you're seeing in terms of that. Now, what does get me concerned is like the really big picture stuff. Right, where it's like if we see a massive economic downturn, everyone's talking about like something's coming. Everyone feels like the debt is just astronomical. It's even hard to conceive of how bad the debt is right now. What inflation, interest rates, all that crap, like that can really affect people, right? And so if we were to see some massive economic collapse, okay, then things are going to get really hairy. But it's not because of a bunch of nerds fighting in the street.
I couldn't agree more. And Pardes, you are within the real estate market right now, so could you tell us what you're seeing as far as what may happen in a year from now or a couple of years? What exactly is the I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. You're the expert. So Pardes, what do you think?
Oh no, where'd you go?
She's here.
I didn't realize that my camera kept going on and off. But
there we go.
Oh.
Yeah, I actually really agree with Tom. I don't know, honestly. Like in the next few years, I think like everybody, if something happens, like I think everyone's gonna be affected. If our economy isn't strong enough to handle whatever's happening next, whatever trade wars are coming, I think that's everybody's issue. It's not just going to affect a few people, it's not going to affect people on the right. Yeah. And also like people, it is really a niche. It is really like a niche group, the conservative media world. And it's very comforting to know that. When I first moved to Texas and I was trying to get into real estate, I had applied for a real estate team and I put in, I had my resume and everything. And part of it was like, I had done work for the Trump campaign. And I was terrified that, it's like, it's a big real estate team. It's part of Keller Williams. I was terrified that they were going to look at it and be like, nope, get out of here. Or like that I was going to have a terrible time in the company. But after a while, and then so like the first time I actually retracted my application because I got so stuck in my head about it. I was like, these people aren't going to accept me. I'm going to get in trouble, whatever. But then later on, like I was looking up a lot of the people on the team, and like there are a lot of Trump supporters or a lot of right wingers and stuff like that, and they didn't even seem very political. It's just for them, it's just like sports. It's not like tied to their lives. So I ended up getting on the team, and even when I did get on, there were people on the internet who were mass emailing my team, trying to get me in trouble because they saw that Ted Cruz retweeted me. Yeah, Ted Cruz retweeted me, and that like it was like a viral tweet, and it wasn't even anything that was really political in my opinion. Like I didn't think that I was being in any way too political, and it was like just like a swarm of people trying to get me in trouble and trying to get me kicked off of my team. And like I don't even think anybody on the team noticed or cared. One time, like one of my team leader actually one time commented to me like, "Hey, these people on the internet are kind of creepy. Haha." That's all.
So wait, so Pardes, real quick. So you're telling me that you had some folks, some haters, whatever, track down the fact that you were working for this real estate firm in Texas.
Oh yeah.
And scraped up some email addresses and sent an email like, "Do you understand who you're with?"
Yeah. White.
What I gotta say though is like, just stop for a second. What a fucking loser.
I mean, it happened. Multiple people did this, by the way.
But really,
it happened.
Sure. Okay, what a bunch of fucking losers. Like seriously, like that's what they have to do, because that says a lot more about them than it says about you, right? It really does.
Yeah.
Well, people have a lot of time on their hands today, and Pardes is a very beautiful girl, so I think that there's a part of them that gets jealous. Why is this beautiful girl spending so much time, fighting for this other side when she should raise the red flag with the yellow star with me, and,
Yeah, but at the same time, I think the problem is, like the niche conservative pundit, what would you call it, network or space. It seems that, I mean, there's very, they're funded by certain people and there are very few funds to go around, and they really, they've sort of repeated a lot of the same stuff. I mean, with a few exceptions. I mean, Tucker Carlson's generally pretty good because he's chosen, I think, to hire people on the ground who are more aware of what I guess you could probably call the internet right wing or the dissident right or whatnot are talking about. But in general, I think the problem with a lot of conservative media figures, at least from my perspective and the people that I'm associated with or whatnot, is that they really they're kind of fine with the way things are as long as they have their little space. There's been many figures that they've not shielded, in my opinion, that they haven't sort of fought for in the sense of meaningful legislation and change. They'd much rather just have, the Fox News segment, and that's pretty much. I mean, I know I'm being very cynical and sardonic.
Well, I think
a lot of people have been burned, and because a lot of people in the conservative media have sort of refused to change their approach to the actual enemy that we are engaged with. So
it's the opposite of what BTR does, where we talk to pretty much anybody. And but anyway, Pardes,
well,
can you speak about what Gio said right now? This approach that something like Fox News has, for example.
Yeah, I don't think you're being cynical at all. I think you're 100% correct, and I'll even go so far as to say that they will actively backstab like other people in the conservative media space because they need to be the only people, and they also need to control the narrative of like what conservative media is like, because they're so afraid. They're even more afraid of most people of getting canceled. They're so afraid of getting canceled that they will actively go out and try to cancel as many people as they can in the conservative media space so they can be like the nice conservatives, the good ones. And
there's so much infighting I've seen like in private conversations. This is part of, there's like, and it's usually, I mean, it's like there's always stuff about somebody hates this because they said this and don't like this, and this person slept with that person, so I don't like that person. This person,
that's happened a lot.
This girl's sleeping with all the guys. I think that I got see this guy hard, and this and this and this, but he likes her, and I don't like. And you're just like, it's honestly, it's a lot like high school or like college. it's a lot of that crap going on.
Well,
And
I mean,
just like anything, it's not unique to that, but it's just like there's a ton of that. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's a lot.
well,
of that.
even in certain like more dissident spaces, I mean, there's always rumors about people sleeping with each other. I mean, that one
And it's
event
just
that
like-
happened, the one rally that was a total disaster. That was probably a not the recent one. I'm talking about the Charlottesville. No, I shouldn't even mention the name on YouTube.
Oh, no.
But there was rumor. Well, apart from being a certain glow in the dark activities, certain bioluminescent forces, there was always rumors of people sleeping with each other and media figures, and it's really apparently media conventions are literally a hotbed of various trysts.
Well, Pardes, you skipped
yeah.
out on CPAC this year, right?
Oh, was it in DC?
Yeah, I think
Orlando
so.
this year.
Oh, Orlando.
Yeah.
It was Orlando this year.
I wasn't there.
You're supposed to be there. That's where Natalie and I got engaged. You're supposed to be
Oh
there.
yeah, I wish I was there.
Everyone else had to watch.
I would have come just for that.
I know.
Well-
How lame is that? I wouldn't. I proposed to my girlfriend at CPAC. At the
Well, it's
Project Veritas
amazing.
party, no less.
Oh my God.
I know.
Well, it's
God.
funny how a lot of these things work. We had Helen of Troy back in the day with the Trojan War. Then we had Zoe Quinn with Gamergate. You know, like these are the things that make all of these conflicts possible. It all comes back down to the fair sex, if you will. But anyway, when it comes to Fox News, we get it. Like, there's a lot of high school drama going on, all these things. But as far as people actually getting a decent news source, what do you personally think it is today, Pardes, other than Break the Rules? Like, where would you personally look at as being somewhere that's informative?
Twitter. I'm contradicting what I said earlier about Twitter not being necessary, but I mean, if I didn't have Twitter, I'd use somewhere else probably. But like right now, Twitter, I get all my news from Twitter.
Who do you like to follow?
Tom. I follow Tom. I follow you.
Thank you.
I follow.
Well, you got to follow Geo now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be rude.
Well, I'm locked right now because pronouns have found my tweet going against their beautiful married couple, iDubbbz and the OnlyFans girl. But no, I think another problem I feel is you have to know the deep lore. It's not even worth mentioning. The other problem I feel is that when it comes to actual attitudes towards certain things, I know like you have I mean, okay, Project Veritas does actually do good work. But the problem is that Veritas, they are sort of like put in a Skinner box by the media as being quote unquote editing. I remember when that abortion video came out, this was 5 years ago, when they were, they selectively edited it. Then they pulled out the full thing. Oh no, but apparently you can edit someone's words through telekinesis. So they're quote unquote discredited. But I noticed the problem is that you mentioned real estate, and I think like the recent what's the company called? BlackRock?
BlackRock.
Yeah.
Blackwater, BlackRock. Why is it that all these black something in the title?
Well, because they have black hearts. That's the problem. I hate to pick on Ben Shapiro, but the tweet and the reply that I know everybody was going crazy over was that, well, they're a private company and they can do what they want. And that's sort of like the standard, like conservative, quote unquote, like pro-business. Like it's really just the remnants of like the Ronald Reagan, like, neoliberal economic policy, the sort of supply side economic stuff. But the thing is, a lot of younger people in the right, or conservatives, they're sort of looking past that to a much older sort of tradition of conservatism that is not exactly pro, quote unquote pro. I mean, it's the pro free market, but really let's call it what it is. It's like this sort of corporatist like bent to it. And I noticed like even like Claire Lehman from Quillette, that's another person where they're like, she was like, oh, these hideous incels, they can't just, find a job. It's like, that's to me, that's like a sort of a sign of like a very sclerotic like media environment around conservatism. That's sort of like holding a boot to the throat of like a lot of different like younger people that don't share a lot of those, older, let's call it, quote unquote older boomer. Yeah, but well, I've rambled on too much.
Speaking of people that got canceled.
Yeah, we have
oh,
a special
wow.
guest
No, what's
here,
up, dude?
Ali
Oh my
Alexander.
God.
Welcome for the first time in Break the Rules history.
It
The
is
great
to you
Ali.
again.
Let's break the rules. What's going on, y'all?
This is
Hell
so,
yeah.
Wow.
Ali has not
I
made
can't
an
believe it.
on anyone's. He has not even come on my live stream. Ali, come on? Why didn't you come on my live stream?
I think,
And you're willing to go on Lev's live stream.
yeah, I mean, I love Lev and Jules break the rules. It's good to see Tom. I don't know Gio, but hello. And yeah, it's just, I think it's interesting. I think this is the future. And I think that, in the fall we'll be vindicated. I say we as in the canceled folks, but yeah, I'm just enjoying the conversation.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting to have seen you with the great water filter merchant himself, Alex Jones, on the air, not that long ago. And I've always been curious about what it's like to sit and eat barbecue with him and just generally chill out with the great man himself.
Alex is the same on screen as he is off screen. And yeah, that's Alex.
Yeah, you have to be very genuine.
Absolutely. And also somebody who was also a guest on Alex's show, Sticks Hexenhammer 666. He was a guest on our stream recently as well as Brittany Venti. And what I try to do now with Break the Rules is, besides having these big stars on, be able to have people on who are from more of this extremely online world, bring them together with people who are much more mainstream, much more, professional political people. And I really do think that is the future right there, because these two worlds hardly ever get a chance to talk to each other, and they end up living in their own bubbles. But when it comes to breaking out of these bubbles for, let's say, the normies, I have more confidence, let's say, in people who may be living in places like Texas, or, people who may be more skeptical of things that are going on, just because even if they're wrong, the fact that they're willing to put up a fight for, regardless of people pointing the finger at them, means that they're not at least going to conform as easily. And my biggest fear has nothing to do even with the masks and things of that nature. It's more like when people get conditioned to a certain stimuli where it's better to be safe than sorry as far as what you're allowed to speak about, what you're allowed to do, then how many people, and this is a question for everyone, I would love to start with you, Ali, how many people would just buckle down and be a robot and act such that they're not going to get into trouble? And where exactly would that limit for most people be? Would it be that, I don't know, I would be open to, I don't know, having my children being taken away from me if I call them the wrong pronoun? Where exactly for most people who have been conditioned to a certain level today would enough be enough?
But also, just keep in mind that you've sort of you've bared the brunt of the face of power as raw as you can get, the American security apparatus, and so you must have an interesting perspective on how these things work and how sort of media narratives can work in ways that, and let's face it, honestly, demonize people, and just the discourse that have come out of the for YouTube, let's just say the incident. Yeah, I wonder how that experience has been like.
That's interesting. I think that the American people proved during the bipartisan lockdown that we're willing to tolerate a loss of liberty that exceeds that of 9/11. And I think it caught a lot of us off guard.
House arrest in your house.
Yeah.
For not a crime.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that I actually helped contribute to that. I was a coronavirus bull, as I like to say, and I think some of my other friends were. And I think that, you can only do analysis based off the information that you have. So I in a lot of ways, it's I don't regret it, but I regret what the security state has done to take advantage of it. And I'm not so optimistic about what people and humans will tolerate. But I am bullish that America's filled with miracles. We have these divergent points from the revolution to the Civil War and to the civil rights movement. It doesn't always take violence to kind of buck this linear order of progression. So I think I'm very sad. I'm very, very sad. Corporations have taken away the efficaciousness of the First Amendment. And the liberals are gone, and all we have now are these progressives to kind of remind us of our individualism. But we'll get through it. I don't know. I'm not. I don't have cheery words to say, but
and one, what do you think is going to happen during the Biden-Kamala administration? I mean, I personally, I don't know, as to longevity, I mean, maybe we might see a President Kamala, but what do you think of that? And also after that, I wanted to ask Tom about specifically the future of the American security state. But yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that anything will happen. I'll tell you this, I'm pleasantly surprised with the Biden administration's ineffectiveness.
I haven't even been following them.
Yeah.
The Biden.
I forget we have a president.
Yeah, I know. It's because you hear about the president every day. Right?
Okay, yeah. I guess he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But traditionally, the president, I mean, it's a weird thing to say where I don't like this idea that the president shouldn't have any power, but at the same time, what exactly was the design that the founding fathers put into this country as far as they should have put some kind of safeguards if, let's say, you elect a pigeon for president, or you elect, the town drunk for the president. However it goes, there should be certain safeguards to make sure that figure alone, with checks and balances and so on and so forth, would not be enough to dismantle the entire thing. I mean, I generally believe, and I know some people in more reactionary sides of Twitter would see differences here with me, but I generally believe that our system is going to be the most rugged. The system, okay, Ali's got to run, whatever. Anyway, thank you, Ali, for coming in here. Okay.
I got a thought on that. There already is that check and balance. And when if some were to get really crazy, we do have Article 5. Right, which is the Constitution. Like, I'm no, con law scholar and like that, but I I can read and write above a 10th grade level, and it's like, that's part of what is built in there, where it's like, hey, if we have to essentially reconvene a constitutional convention, and you can change a lot of things. I mean, that's where you can literally have states could secede out of the union. They can change all sorts of things. They can fundamentally change the Constitution. That's what it's there for. But also, if you guys keep in mind, it's interesting, throughout history, is these days we look at the president, people think that's the president just kind of runs the country, he's just this all-powerful CEO of the country. It wasn't designed that way. It really wasn't until the Lincoln administration, right? It's even before that, it was really Congress that ran the show, and you had this guy who was the head of government, head of state, right? And he had certain powers, very limited, but we didn't have a big army, we barely had a navy, and it was we weren't able to do a whole lot. So he was there for he was kind of the figurehead, but really it was Congress that ran the show, not unlike, the parliamentary system in the UK. It wasn't too different from that. And then it wasn't really until the Lincoln administration and later where it really got serious is when in FDR. After the war, FDR was, pretty damn fascist if you really want to look at it, right? In terms of what he did. So that's one of the things that I kind of see right there. I'd say that, but then, as far as you could say, if you were to ask that question of a liberal, some lefty, they'd be like, well, we already have that. We elected a reality TV star, buffoon, real estate tycoon as the president, right? That's what they tell you, and they'd have a case for that. They really would. But, and just kind of answer, I think, honestly, I do think we're going to be okay. But I'm far less worried about the government. I'm far more worried about corporate media and massively all-powerful corporations. That's what I'm really worried about. That's what actually has me worried far more than anything the government has. And frankly, I don't think there's a whole lot the government can do about it. I mean, look, Facebook itself is more powerful than most countries. It's just.
But do they have a army? I mean, when it comes to, let's say that...
who says they need one? Who says you need one?
Well, how would you enforce certain things? Like even...
But it's just influencing, right? Facebook tells people what to think.
Well, speaking of that, follow our Facebook page just popped up here. We do have a Break the Rules Facebook page that you guys have to become a member of. And by the way, whoever is typing in the keyboard, we can hear that. Just
Oh
FYI.
shit! Sorry, Lev.
No problem at all, buddy. But anyway, when it comes to these influences that people are in right now, so Ali is much more pessimistic than you are, Tom, when it comes to freedom-loving Americans. For me, it also comes down to two things: the audit of the elites and the audit of the American people, both of whom could either be seen as being just as they always were, better than they were before, or worse than they were before. So when it comes to you, Pardes, I mean, you are a young woman. You do not, let's say, have the full... I mean, Tom, you are also a young man, relatively speaking. We're all very young here. But as far as history... You're welcome. As far as history, going, way back when, people were very abusive when it came to having, back in Teddy Roosevelt's day, having all of these trusts take over all these various industries, and eventually those were done away with. So when it comes to the abuses that we see today and the way that the quote-unquote elites act today, how different is it from before? Is noblesse oblige just a fairy tale that we tell to comfort ourselves on there having been a better golden age that we could someday return to, when in reality maybe it wasn't anything of the sort? It was much more corrupt, it was much more ruthless, and people would have kissed the feet of Biden and Kamala Harris if they would have been transported to today. I mean, this is me being very devil's advocate about this, but how much do we know about the past as far as the way that the elites acted and the various checks that were put on the elites to prevent them from doing something that people are talking about them abusing their power today?
Pardes, that's to you.
That
was a big question, Lev. That was a big question.
It's actually not. It's actually a small question said very bigly. Because the small question is basically, are the people of the present who are in positions of power, are they worthy enough of our, let's say, keeping the same system that's currently in place? Because the people of the past were probably much more worse than today. That's kind of the question.
Wait, Lev, what? Wait, I'm sorry.
Okay,
People
I'll say it again. Yes. Okay, no problem.
People in the past...
Yes,
What?
people in the past. I'll explain. Once
They were
again.
expected to worship their rulers. Is that what you're saying?
No.
I
Okay.
understand your question, Lev. And I'll jump in and answer it if you don't mind.
Go for it.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna interject here unless Pardes really want to say something. So, okay, yeah, I agree that we usually look at our elites, right, that are betters, as being, as being, they're looking out, they're good. And like, guess what? I don't think they're worthy today. I don't think they are. There was a time not that long ago where if you were born into a really good family and you came from money, typically you were expected. It's almost like a responsibility. With great power becomes great responsibility, all that crap, right? And I think that was really true. These are the folks who they entered the military, they led industries, right? And and just because they might have made a lot of money and be really successful, they still did a lot of good for human progress, right? Whether it came to industry, agriculture, military, writing, literature, politics. But right now, it's you even look now, where are our top performers going in, coming out of academia? They're not going in engineering. They're not going into, building things and creating things. Very few of them are going into the military, which I don't think has as much value and importance as it once did. They're going into law and they're going into finance and they're going, they're going into journalism, right? That's where they're all going. And these are really areas that don't really create a whole lot. That's one of the things that's one of the ways I look at it. There's not a lot of creators. There's some, of course, there's exceptions. But I'd say in general, it's we used to, the best and the brightest would go into, engineering. They build things, they create things. And now they're going into law and finance. That's where they are. Or they go into some tech and they're going to move to Silicon Valley and try to create the new killer app or something. But today, I generally say that I don't think most of our elites are really kind of worthy of where they're at. And also, who else do we worship? Our celebrities, right? Which really, they don't have a whole lot of virtue. And I'll say this much, like, I went to like I said this last time on the show, I went to a fancy pants school, Naval Academy, right? But it's not quite up there with like your Harvard, Yale, Princeton. But it's still like we send a lot of like notable people there. And I went to school with a lot of sons with last names of people you would recognize, right? Yes. And I'd say that for the most part, though, a lot of those guys actually like really they really stepped up. They did, because they came from privilege and they lived up to that privilege, or at least tried their very best to. So I was actually like pretty pleased by that. I was like, one or two guys in particular who are very, became very successful. They did their duty for king and country for sure. And now they're doing really interesting things on the civilian side. And I think that's great. I'm not seeing a whole lot of that out of the Ivies. At least I'm not aware of. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but I don't.
But was there a lot out of the Ivies before, though? That's the part that I don't understand. And by the way, the word that I was looking for, thank you very much, Philip Daniel, the word I was looking for was loyalty. Do the elites deserve our loyalty? That would be the simplest way to say it. And actually, Pardes, do you think the elites today deserve our loyalty?
I don't know. I think what Tom said makes a lot of sense. And I don't know if it's that the elites are going down. Maybe it's also that because of the internet and everybody having endless access to information, everybody else is just we're all becoming leveled, kind of. So the elites don't really have that much leverage over other people with a phone. Even people in third world countries are learning how to code, and they can do it for cheap.
But doesn't that also? Gio, I think we may be simpatico in our thought process right now, because the people who are learning how to code.
That rarely happens.
It rarely happens, but when it does, it's a very beautiful thing. We should even do like a little heart shape over here with our hands, like a silhouette. Anyway, whatever. When people learn how to code, that's great. My concern, though, is that those people being connected to the internet, I'm not sure how many in the future we're going to have very distinct personalities, tastes. It really does seem like the bread and circus bullshit of the internet is what most people are paying the most attention to.
We need to cordon off the internet. I think that we need to have like regional internets, and then everyone can go back after a few years to the big one and see what like creative cultural antipods can like come up. But that's sort of like a romantic vision. I don't know.
Well, it already is in a way. I mean, the various.
Oh, the language barrier is yeah. I mean, well, even memes, like for example, Sparrow, I think came from Denmark. Is that
Spurdo Sparde?
Yeah, it was Denmark or Finland. No, it was Finland.
Pardes, do you know Spurdo Sparde by any chance?
No.
All right.
Well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I'll show you an image of Spurdo.
Well, which one? I mean, Show or Gondola? That's probably the most wholesome one.
Well, the original one is great. So, Pardes, this is we're doing this.
A meme stream.
We're doing this. This is Spurdo, and I want to get your opinion on Spurdo. What do you think?
What is that?
It's Spurdo Sparde.
It's a pedo bear. That's
no. It was okay. So here's how it started. First, there was this thing called Kuma, which means bear in Japan, from the board called 2channel, which was kind of like the ancestor of 4chan.
It was before 4chan.
Yes,
it was the one that Moot ripped off from, yeah.
Yes, and then Moot ripped it off and created Pedo Bear. So the original bear was not a pedo, but the new bear was a pedo. But then it went into another evolution.
I feel like we're talking about like Finland. Some esoteric manga right now.
Well, this is the point.
I don't know.
No, but do you like the design at least? Of
Show or Gondola. Everyone loves Gondola. Show or Gondola.
Yes, well, I want to show Matthew the Stout's version of Gondola.
Yeah,
I think that one.
But no, my point being is that I think that in some ways I agree. It's hard to describe because I'm generally like, as much as I love the internet, as much as like I live on the internet, I think that in some ways they're finding more nuanced forms of controlling people that aren't necessarily like going to be as overt as like the direct control of information. Like they're probably going to delete a lot of information, but they're probably they'll find more sophisticated ways of just channeling people into certain selective platforms, and they'll basically close off a vast, like huge swath of the internet when as more people, as more quote unquote normal people have gotten onto the online world. You're starting to see this, like people being comfortable with just basically violating as stupid as this sounds, violating those norms that those nerds back in the early 2000s created for themselves back in the heyday of the internet. So yeah.
One thing I want to answer. So I was kind of catch up on some of the chats on there, and it was one of the things on here that said is like when he said, just to answer the question, what does knowing their name have anything to do with the power and influence they hold from fallen student? No, when I say I know their name, what I'm saying is like they're the sons of people who are in exceptional positions of power, right? And, oh, hi. Okay,
That's Gondola.
My buddy
sweet.
Matt Visto created those. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, that's nice. Guys.
It's cute, right?
Yes.
I mean, well, well.
But yeah, hey, one thing also to put like when you talk about like the future, like where things are going, is one of the things I see. You can see it slowly happening now, and I'm kind of okay with it. Is one of the things I realized like it's gonna be really hard to change a lot of people's minds, right? It just is, and especially when you look, and obviously the division is, I think it's far less about race. Or even wealth. I think it's more about urban and rural. I'd say definitely on a lot of levels. I mean, wealth has a lot to do with it, but also there's a lot of correlation with race and wealth, sadly. But I would also say that like one of the promising things in general is like I kind of like seeing some of this balkanization, right? Maybe like I like to see some more of it in a way where it's like we're kind of self-segregating. You hear about it all the time.
I like that too.
Part is you were in DC, right? And then you went back to LA for a little while. And where are you now? You're in Texas.
I'm in Texas,
right?
and there's so many people that are coming here also with the same ideas.
California, New York, right? Yeah. And now the thing is one thing I like to like say is like, yeah, I'm in California. Sure, I'm in Southern California, but I'm in Newport Beach. It's not California, right? I'm in Orange County. It's not like the rest of California. It's not like LA, whatever. I like my little enclave where it's like conservative, there's law and order, it's very safe, it's very clean. Yes, it's expensive. I totally agree. It's hard to afford it, but it's like, it's great if you can afford it. But I mean, you say that about anything. And a lot of people have always asked me like, oh, what are you doing in California? Like, these are my business partners and close friends. Like, why are you in California? You need to move to Texas or Florida. And like, I think about Florida one day maybe, but I like where I'm at right now. I really do. And I mean, I don't go to LA if I can ever help it. I only go to LA if I have to. And it's just like, I kind of like this where I'm at right now. And I really don't have any intention of ever leaving, at least anytime soon. And,
maybe I'll join you someday.
What's that?
Maybe I'll join you guys someday.
I remember when you were in town with us, what about a month ago, a little over a month ago, it was like, you're like, this ain't so bad. Maybe I'll come here,
Yeah.
The real estate scene it's like what Tim Dillon said, like it's a goddamn knife fight out here, the real estate scene.
It's a goddamn night fight in Times Square right now in New York City as well, which is why a lot of people are moving out. And there's probably going to be this kind of, splitting up of different places. But my biggest concern is more like in terms of the United States being a world power, no more, and having power gaps open up. Could two things work at the same time? Could you have the United States still be a world power, even though internally its various cultures, its various ways of being are split up?
Wait, was that for me or was it just for the group?
That is for
both of you.
Yeah, both of you.
Okay, so wait, you're very good at it. Like one more time, because I'm a dumb. Help me understand this one more time. What you're saying here.
So you're
okay. So if America gets balkanized, culturally balkanized in the inside,
maybe
and even
physically,
you could say,
even.
well, legislatively balkanized, maybe,
sure.
Would it still be able to remain a world power when it comes to defending other
influence, right?
Yeah, influence.
That's a great
also,
question, and that probably ties in what Gio wanted to ask about, like what the future of the security state for the United States.
Yeah.
That's a very good question, and I don't know the answer, to be honest, because look, one of the things, that's interesting to think about is that I think, like, as it stands today, right, the United States, the part of everyone always talks about, like, oh, America is such a giant military industrial complex. We've got bases all over the world, all this stuff. We have all these alliances. We're
biggest defense budget in the world. Yeah.
Huge, by a lot. And it's like, okay, and from a military standpoint, we've got our fingers in damn near everything all over the world, right? Okay, but is we kind of put ourselves in this position, and I think we had to at a certain point. But now it's like, what do you do? And the reason I say that is, like, I think it's something like 35% of the Earth, in terms of population, 35% of humanity, or maybe even more, it's almost 40%, is the United States is obligated to defend by treaty. By treaty, right? Like, we've got some written document. So we're talking about, that's NATO, that's Japan, that's Korea, that's we actually even have an agreement with OAS, Organization of American States, which is Latin America, right? Like, if Latin Americans were to get invaded by the Russians or something, I don't know, right? We've got all these treaties and security agreements with, like, literally, I think it's like 35-40% of humanity. You probably Google it, but it's something absurd. And the thing is that after the Second World War, and we rolled into the Cold War, it's like, look, there was a very real threat there. Right. And, like, I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't have been cool with Western Europe and all of Korea and most of Asia being completely communist. I wouldn't have liked that. And I don't think a lot of people would have either. And if them holding the upper hand when it came to the rest of the world. Right. And so, look, we had to do that. And was it the right decision? Like, in hindsight, I don't know. I think it still probably was. But at the time, you got to look at, like, judge history and judge leaders by what they were experiencing at that time. Right? There's got to have that context. And it's like, look, we kind of painted ourselves into a corner. But it's like, if we're not going to do it, who the fuck is? China? Like,
that is British Empire numbers right there. I mean,
yeah, it is. It is. And the thing is like, okay, well, is humanity better off for the British Empire? I would say, on balance, yes. Right? The bad things happen, sure. But also, it's like, okay, well, what's your alternative? Right? Because, like, the world globally operates in an anarchist, anarchic,
the Westphalian sort of, yeah.
Well, yeah, because, like, look, there's no higher government authority that other countries have. There isn't, like, and that's something like John Mearsheimer talks about. He's one of my guys I'm a big fan of. And it's like, you can say the United Nations, but the United Nations is bullshit. It's mostly just a forum where people bitch at each other. It's has very little enforcing body, very little. And so the thing is, it comes down to where it's like, okay, well, what's your alternative today? We had the Soviet Union, and now we have China. Would you rather have, communists and, like, not the nice kind, being the global superpower running the show? I don't know about you guys.
But look at those. But look at all those beautiful videos that are coming out of China, where they show this tour.
But if the Chinese took over Korea, we wouldn't have had K-pop, though. That's a good thing. I mean,
right. I mean, imagine if all the...
That's what I mean. We could have let them have Korea, and so we wouldn't have been cursed with K-pop nowadays.
I don't think K-pop ever would have happened, because imagine the entire Korean peninsula was the DPRK.
Good. No, that's amazing.
That's Gio's whole point. But anyway, I want to go to Pardes on this. Are you a fan of K-pop, or do you hate K-pop?
I like K-pop sometimes. Sometimes I think it's annoying because it's used for everything. I don't know.
What's your favorite K-pop? They are. Well, what's your favorite K-pop group?
I don't know specific groups. I just know. I don't know specific groups. But
probably BTS, isn't it?
I when I hear K-pop, like if I'm in a Korean restaurant or something.
All right, you don't have to dignify this question. Let's move on.
They should have a Korean K-pop group named CRT. That's going to be the next BTS. CRT, I'm telling you.
CRT.
Well, a lot of them do actually support CRT. There's this weird sort of like K-pop Twitter and Black Twitter like together. I don't know. It's really weird. But anyways, let's move on. So
I know what you're talking about, and they respond to like every tweet with a
yeah.
But what do you think, Pardes? What do you the question of the future of like if in America, like if things become like totally balkanized, what do you think would happen in that sort of environment, both like in terms of foreign policy, but also in terms of like domestically? Like, do you think that the American security apparatus, maybe they'll go on in some kind of like zombified state, but like domestically, America will just like fall apart at the seams? Or do you think that that's unsustainable? Or maybe, who knows, maybe something will unite us. Maybe another like what did Ronald Reagan say? If aliens came down, then suddenly we'll be united. So I don't know.
I think
Yeah,
we'll,
I think it's true.
get along better. There'll be more compromise happening when we're more balkanized and when there's more like of a division between the states.
That's how it was meant to be. That's how it was designed, you guys.
It's the Jefferson, like.
Yeah, and then it wasn't until Lincoln that you actually had like a really strong executive, right? You had to do that because with the Civil War and everything, and then you actually had, instead of really having this, where when people would identify themselves as Georgians or Virginians or New Yorkers, and less so about as they look at themselves as Americans, and they used to actually say, it sounds cliche, but it's true, is like they taught when they would say the United States, they'd say these United States, right? There's a big difference there. And then it got really serious with FDR. Now, granted, these were men who were acting in a time of crisis at that time, and it's like really like at that time, really, what was the alternative? And I gotta say, it's like I don't know. I do look at the chats once in a while, guys, and I'm kind of looking here. It's like this guy is insane, and I'm kind of like, right, of course it is, and of course they kill and rape or something like that in the name of democracy, or something. And it's like I'd rather not have those things. And it's like, well, part of me is like, okay, well. Look, I agree. Like what the United States, have we done some really dastardly things? Yeah, for sure. No doubt, no question. I don't argue this. Are we doing some dastardly things today? Yeah, pretty quietly. A lot of it really quietly, but it's not doesn't make it any better. But then the thing is, it's like, okay, what is the alternative? And that's the thing where it's like, hey, if I've got two bad options, right? Like which one's the less bad? And I got to say that the Western way of life, and I think, and generally speaking, Western society, and I think a lot of it is kind of about as good as it's out there, at least of what is feasible and what actually would work. Because right now, what's your alternative today? What's your alternative? Who's going to dominate things? Because it's like, look, if we all decide to put down our weapons and all get along, the first guy who decides to pick up his weapons again, he's calling the shots.
Definitely.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think that is a valid criticism, maybe not as hyperbolic as our chat, but the criticism of the American security state being sort of going through this end stage of empire where they're totally exhausted to the point where these obligations, they may not really benefit America's true interests, but we sort of carry along because America is so invested in like the international
why do
order.
we have NATO? Why do we have NATO today, guys?
Yeah.
NATO is a dinosaur. It's 30 years. It really hasn't been necessary for about 30 years now. Right now, why do we really have it? Well, for one, the Europeans like the fact that the United States provides all their security.
Yeah,
they really do. Also, one of the reasons why we have NATO is it was even said. Well, God, who was the guy that said? I don't remember the guy that said it, but it was pretty prominent guy at the time. I'll have to look it up. But it's like, the whole purpose of NATO is to keep the Russians out, the Americans in, and the Germans down. Right? I mean, really, because guess what? Like, people were scared shitless of the Germans because all they kept doing, the First and Second World War wasn't the first time they started invading people, right? And it was like, that's kind of a big part of their history. And, I'm speaking, my last name is Sauer, okay? But my point being is, it's like, look, what is the alternative? If somebody has like a really good, viable alternative that could actually work, right? Not some pie in the sky libertarian bullshit, right? Because there's a lot of folks who are on the libertarian side, who lean libertarian, who have ideas that sound really good on paper, right? But just when just like the rubber meets the road, it just ain't gonna fly.
Well, there were some people, let's say, who when Trump got elected, later on they were obviously disappointed, but there were some people who thought that this was going to be an actual strong man who would go in there and he would, disregard, and sure, you could say he did disregard things to a certain extent, but ultimately just disregard, put in as many, kind of like be another FDR in the modern time type of person. And I see a great risk with having somebody like that when it comes to certain things you may like that he does, but other things you may not like, and those things can really bite people in the ass. And how much power can one person hold? But that goes back to this idea that forget the libertarians for a second. Let's talk about the people more on Gio's neck of the woods. If we're talking about, and sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, Gio, but as far as like, how would you describe the ideal figure that you would seek to set things right? What do you see as the way forward?
Well, I mean, the ideal figure, I mean, we both, well, the difference being is that my ideal figure is Northern Italian and I'm half Central and Southern Italian. So you don't know who I'm talking about. No, I mean, I think like there really is, it's a question of like ideal figures. I mean, I think the problem is in general, the obsession with an ideal figure on the political right, whether it's conservatives that have somewhat of this, especially under Trump, or whether it's like just people in the dissident right that basically do want like a Mussolini figure to come and, or more like a Caesar Augustus. That's probably a good analogy to the sort of current order that we're facing. But I think that the problem is that is, there can never be like a moment, like a single like political movement that's going to do this. I mean, in some ways.
No, but what if there was? Would it work? That's ultimately what we're trying to get
well,
here.
all bets are off. I mean, not to say that it's going to happen because we already do have an autonomous political class that doesn't care about what the American people, and nor in some ways, I hate to say it, but nor should they care about the American people. No, I'm not saying that. What I mean is that in an ideal system, you would have a sort of aristocracy that would have the people's interests in mind, but you would still have a bit of a leeway. What we have now is probably the worst of all forms of governance. We have the worst form of democracy, and we have the worst form of autocracy in the same basket. And I would say Canada, where I'm from, is somewhat worse because our political class is even more entrenched and even more together than even in America. In America, you still have like somewhat dissident candidates in the major parties that could potentially like torpedo any sort of grand plan that the neoliberals have. I think DeSantis would be, I mean, a good figure, someone that probably could take up the mantle from Trump. But the problem is after Trump, you have in the Republican Party, you have like all of the, you know, neocons that, you know, took that opportunity to seize power. By the way, speaking of neocons, I'm tapping my foot on the ground. Guess who died recently?
Oh, boy. Well, I want to get into that as well.
There, Donald?
I want to get into
I
that.
got something to say about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Keep going. No, go ahead.
Donald Rumsfeld just died recently at the ripe old age of 88 years old from heart failure. I mean, he couldn't have been, you know, speaking of Mussolini and what happened to him, I mean, if I had to change places in history with what happened to Mussolini, what happened to Rum, never mind. I'm not going to Fed post, but
well, before Tom answers, I do want to get Pardes's opinion on her ideal political structure. Would it be a strong man? Would it be a strong woman? Would it be
a girl boss?
A girl boss, yeah, with the high heels that she could just like poke and, you know, cause extreme pain.
We have Kamala. I mean, isn't Kamala kind of going to be that?
Yeah. What's your ideal, Pardes?
Be me. I'd be the president, and I obviously I'd wear heels that are like really pokey in the bottom. And like anytime someone is rude or not listening, I'll just poke them with my heel. Like the bottom will be sharp, so they'll just die. And it'll be a dictatorship. And there will be like mandatory lipstick everywhere. It'll be run by a bunch of, you know, like.
You know what you'd like, Pardes?
What?
You'd love my friend Bimbo Ubermensch on Twitter. Follow Lev, put in the chat the @ I was just talking to her today. She has this brilliant interview. Follow Bimbo Ubermensch. You two would get along swimmingly. She's a legit model, but she's brilliant. She had this.
And she says hi, by the way. Bimbo Ubermensch, I invited her on the stream. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it today.
She was cooking for her husband.
Yes, but she also says that Pardes seems lovely. So just
oh, thank you.
But she had this interview with another podcast, our good friends, the Fed Post podcast. It's called the Bimbo State. And she has this brilliant idea. She said if she was the queen dictator, that she would have various state subsidies for beautification of the body. She'd have subsidies for fresh food, gyms, beauty products, kind of like what Gaddafi did.
Well, boob jobs are already covered by Medicare, so.
Well, there you go.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
As long as it's for a dude.
No. Well, you could pretend you're a male lesbian, and maybe that'll,
yeah, it has to be for a sex change. But
no, never mind. Never mind, baby. It was a funny joke. No, it's okay, baby. Go ahead. No, it's fine. I'll play about it later.
But by the way, Tom Sauer, Sig Sauer versus Glock. Go.
Glock. Sorry.
Oh no, wrong answer.
I don't like the balance. I prefer the balance of the Glock. So like when I was in the Navy, when we did like the Navy special operations guys, like us and the SEALs, typically rolled with SIGs. PT-7. And then when I did a gig with Army Special Forces, they had Glock 19s, the 9mm standard Glock 19, but then they switched later to Glock 22s, the 40 cal. Which is a little more stopping power. I just prefer the Glock. I just personally like the balanced weight because I always felt the SIGs were a little too top heavy and harder required. That's my opinion. A lot of guys, it's a big debate, but yeah. Hey, one of the things I want to mention is what's interesting is talking about Rumsfeld's death. So like, I obviously, like many people were like, man, this guy, like a little bit of insight, kind of deeper, right? And so, today he's pretty much always remembered and will always be remembered. That's his legacy. All the shortcomings and the failures of the Iraq War, right? In its initiation and in its execution, right? And like, obviously, like there are a lot of bad things that happened there. And I do feel that despite all that being true, and I don't disagree with any of that, I feel he was kind of unfairly demonized, and here's a couple reasons why. And by the way,
there was other people.
Biased.
Yeah.
I actually, I met the guy a couple of times when I was kind of fun. When I was living in DC. I decided.
Oh my God.
I had lunch with him, like just one-on-one.
Did you smell sulfur at all?
No. This was in 2018, so yeah, not too long ago. I decided like one thing is kind of helpful. Like I had some money and it was kind of like helpful trying to get into business and like to meet folks for business. Really, I joined the University Club of DC. It's like a couple blocks from the White House. It was nice. I liked it, and he was a member. Always had been a member, but he was living. He's living in Wyoming, probably with Dick Cheney or something. I have no idea. But he was out of town. But he had his little foundation. And he's sitting there alone. I'm just like, everyone tells us to be friendly here. I'm like, hey, sir, do you mind if I meet you? You used to be my boss's 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 boss, right? And so, but one of the things, I actually read his book, one of his books, Unknown to Knowns, and it's mostly his biography. Yeah. But I will say that despite all of those things in recent years, basically from around 2001 to really today, till he died, really, he's just totally demonized, defined by that. And those are valid criticism. I'm not going to deny that. But if you look into his past, because also not only was he one of the most interesting and wildly successful people in so many different things. He was a chairman of the board for, that wasn't Procter & Gamble. What was the other one? I can't remember, a couple of big corporations, Chicago. He was, very successful businessman. He was also the guy went to Princeton, top of his class, was captain of the wrestling team, so he could kick your ass.
Look at how much of a Chad he is, by the way. Look at this image here.
Super fucking Chad, right? He actually went to the Olympic trials, right?
Wow, that is a Chad image. That is.
Yeah. So here's the deal. And also I'd say that it was the guy went to the Olympic trials, or was getting ready to go to the Olympic trials, and during a wrestling match, his arm was broken. And then that was okay, fucking wrestling career's over. And then went on to become a Navy pilot. Right, was living in Coronado, flew for the Navy for a little bit, small career, then went to the reserves, then he ran for Congress. He's a congressman in his late 20s, went to business, all this stuff. And here's something that's really interesting. So I got one of my very close friends who's still in the Navy today. When he's the second in command of a ship in San Diego, but he did a tour at the Pentagon, and he was on the Secretary of the Navy staff,
where he worked with a lot of like longtime defense officials, right? The assistant deputy undersecretary for defense and all those folks, in the E-ring, right? Which are like all the big higher up civilian muckety mucks that like stay with every administration, right? And a lot of these folks were not political appointees, so they kind of keep their job through every president. And what's really interesting was that my buddy told me on multiple occasions, somebody would like throw a snide remark about Rumsfeld, and all of the Obama appointees and all of the Clinton appointees from years before told him to shut the fuck up. I was like, whoa, really? They defend Rumsfeld. Like, look, say what you want about him. He was the best boss we ever worked for, ever. Now, I'm not disputing anything to his policy. I'm not arguing that stuff. But I mean, he was the guy. It's kind of funny. Like, hey, Lev, are you in a stand-up desk right now?
I am. Yeah. How did you know?
He popularized that. He made that. I can just kind of tell by where you're standing and where you're walking around. Yeah, he popularized the stand-up desk. He actually made it. He had a stand-up desk his entire life, right?
Wow.
Like he had it when nobody else had a stand-up. I know it sounds weird. And he always write his little memos and all that stuff. And he was like a big-time thinker, right? I mean, he was pretty smart. And he was also, everyone always said, and I read his book. He has a great book actually that he wrote a while ago after retirement called Rumsfeld's Rules. And it's like rules for life, right? As like business. Yeah, it's geared towards like a young person who's like in college or starting their career.
Like a Jordan Peterson type book.
Yeah, kind of, but a lot more snippets. And one of the things he like learned is stuff that I've learned myself and I've applied. And I encourage other people where it's like taking an internship, right? Whenever you get a position, a chance, and this is for somebody if you're trying to work your way in a corporation or the military, or whatever. I remember this one that stuck with me. Is if you ever get a position, no matter how small and meager this position is, but you're working near the top, near the front office, you take that job. You take that job, right? Even if it means you're fetching coffee for the CEO or you're picking up their dry cleaning, right? You're the Jon Snow, right? You know what I mean? Like you're the guy who's doing like that action, like that sort of thing kind of man. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty smart because you're going to expose to how the big decisions get made. And this is in any organization, right? You get exposed to big, and hey, if you do a good job, maybe you'll get noticed, and maybe somebody's going to write a letter of recommendation for you for another job, or maybe you'll get pulled for that position. I think that kind of thing was smart. That was just one example, but like I was so surprised how these like Democrat appointed, big time liberal, Obama loving, Trump hating defense officials who have been in the industry for a long time immediately, very quickly, and like violently, not violently, but like very harshly defended Donald Rumsfeld because they're like, he was the best boss I've ever worked for. And oh, by the way, it's worth pointing out, and you guys love this, is like, you want to put your conspiracy hat on. You remember like what, 2 or 3 days before 9/11?
Yeah.
You know what happened? I had that big comment where like, hey, there was like trillions of dollars missing from the defense budget or something like unaccounted for.
I think. Yeah, well, I was a bit young to recall that. But
yeah, but like, yeah. I bet you guys could probably look that up. I'm sure I'm getting a ton of hate in the comments. I don't care.
There was a few weird things happening that summer before 9/11 as well.
Right, and whether it's a conspiracy or coincidence, whatever. But the thing is though, like the whole plan of the Bush administration, at least at the outset, at least for Rumsfeld, was like, hey, we're gonna like create some like, create a little bit of like we're here to like, clean up some things around here. And it's like, remember he announced, you can probably find it. There's not even like a press conference. It was either on like September like 9th or 10th or something like that of 2001. And it was like, yeah, he was saying like, there's, I guess like a couple trillion dollars missing, unaccounted for in defense. Like, where's this money going? What's going on? Right. To like clean things up. And then 9/11 happened, whatever. So it's really good for the 9/11 troopers to live on that one. But I don't think that he was as much of a devil as people think he was. I think he was somebody who was put in a very difficult position and at that time had to make really, really, really tough decisions that not a lot of people liked. And even if it cost him his reputation, he was willing to do it, even if it's the wrong decision, right? That's kind of one thing, because guess what? A lot of the people who chat, who make all these comments, right? And I'm not saying these people in the chat, but on Twitter in general, right? All those folks who love to sharpshoot other people, you haven't done a fucking thing. Haven't been in charge of people, right? Haven't been in charge of an organization, right? Had to make a tough decision, right? And some of these guys do, right? Like you'd say, oh yeah, you could, and guess what? And guess what? You're gonna be judged, and you're gonna live and die by it. And he did. So like, does that mean that I agree with a lot of the decisions he made during the Iraq War? No, not at all. But that doesn't mean he's like the worst person in the world.
But I think that
this is kind of This is kind of a goof, by the way. I do
one about
understand what you're
incinerating
saying.
millions of people. I mean, I think that the problem is the American war machine was like so diffuse at that time that,
Yeah.
I mean, who can you? I mean, not to excuse his role, but
Sure.
it is like an incredible machine that really can't.
It's bigger than one man.
Yeah, and I think that. I don't know. Oh my God, I don't know what to do here.
No, but is this the kind of thing where we can, let's say, put the blame on some particular
I tend to
people
think the
or
two wars are a
group, or
huge
no?
mistake, though. That
Or
was
is
the
this
problem. But
like
that's-
because I think in general people are always looking like, who do we blame? Who do we put in as the scapegoat? And you could maybe see that Rummy would have been the scapegoat for a lot of people today.
yeah,
since
but
he
Cheney
passed.
was pulling the strings. Let's face it.
Well, he
Cheney
was pulling the
probably-
Abraham
chains.
Lincoln destroyed Atlanta. Put it that way. Abraham
Yeah.
Lincoln destroyed it. Well, it
Yeah.
was General Sherman that did it, but it was Abraham Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
He destroyed Atlanta. He locked
One-
up journalists.
One thing I
right?
would
he did all sorts
say,
of bad things, right? And like, hey, was that the right decision? I mean, history judged him, but like you could say from a constitutional standpoint, he very much violated the Constitution, big time.
definitely.
But does that mean that like, hey, at the end of the day, like, hey, what happened? We preserved the Union. We abolished a horrible practice. Okay. Like maybe that was good, maybe it wasn't, but like, and also by the way, like by today's standards, Abraham Lincoln was a horrible fucking racist. Read the fucking Jefferson Davis, not Jefferson, but the Lincoln Douglas debates.
yeah,
Oh my God.
he didn't
Right?
believe that
So-
they should have personhood, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, anyways, okay, I've been ranting a lot, but
No,
it's
but
like one
I
of those
wanted to
things,
get,
like,
I wanted to get, Lev, but
Well,
but
I also want to ask Pardes.
yeah,
about,
I wanted to get Pardes to maybe take the Rumsfeld pill, but
Yeah.
one thing I will say before we move on is
Well, no. First, do you think Pardes?
Uh,
Do you think that Rumsfeld is a Chad? Like, would he be somebody that you would have gone out with?
Lev, why do you ask women the personal questions on BTR? No, don't answer that. Ask serious. You know what I mean, Lev? Come on, it's not fair. It's not.
No, I generally want to know, like, being somebody who can take charge, who has a standing desk. Is this somebody who you would say, is-
Keep in mind, Richard Spencer also had a standing desk. Does this mean that? Never mind. Oh, I got to make you think, right?
I know. I am curious though. Like, what is your opinion in general of Rumsfeld?
I don't know so much about him, to be honest.
But you saw
Most
that
people
photo,
don't.
right?
Uh,
The young Rumsfeld. Wait,
Yeah.
Little Chad.
So that's what I mean. Like, would he be somebody who, if you were, I actually had, I'm sorry to ask, are you single, by the way?
Oh my God, Lev, stop.
Okay.
No, don't answer it. But are you though? I mean, oh, never mind. Don't answer. Let's move on.
Complicated.
Just answer Lev's question.
Yeah.
He's dying to know.
Yeah.
The short answer is yes.
There we go.
There you go,
That's
Lev.
all I
Are you
wanted to know.
happy?
Yeah,
Are you happy now?
I'm ecstatic. I'm
It's because
ecstatic.
Lev is destroying my role on BTR. Usually I'm the one that's sent. But Pardes, I wanted to ask you about just like I wanted to go back to because you're in real estate. But I okay, let's move on. Okay, so oh God, one thing I will say about Rumsfeld, and this isn't my point. This is I don't know if you've ever seen the one clip from Slavoj Zizek where he was describing Rumsfeld. He said that Rumsfeld had the most serious philosophic insight into the like sort of American spirit that ever was, which is, the whole line about what is a known known, an unknown unknown, and an unknown unknown.
Yeah.
It's sort of like embedded within Americana itself to sort of like ever since like the what was it called? The Turner Thesis, like the Closing the Frontier. It's like America, they're compelled by the unknown. I have to look up the clip again, but Zizek, I think it was in one of his interviews, but he also talks about it in it was either the Parallax book or it was no, the one he wrote like right after the Iraq War was announced. What was it called? It wasn't Sublime Object. It was like one of the other ones. But basically, yeah, Rumsfeld, he captured in that phrase alone, like the sort of spirit of where the American century was heading and where it still continues to head. And so it's very rare that you have a military leader who can sum up the legacy of their own particular regime I mean, Cicero comes to mind, certainly Julius Caesar, certainly in some respects, Alexander and Genghis Khan. There's very few military leaders that can have an insight into what their legacy is going to be. So, yeah. That was a very pretentious rant. But getting back to like the business, we were talking about BlackRock. I wanted to ask you, like Pardes, do you think that, do you think like the whole like charge that they're buying up the housing market and that they're basically making it impossible for younger families to even sustain themselves or buy homes? Like, what do you think of the whole general situation? Like, I know in Canada, how the housing is just incredibly ridiculous, and it's a huge bubble, and it's probably being manipulated by Chinese business people, and like just it's insane, it's unsustainable, and it's a bubble. So at least that's
I think the thing that's unsustainable and a bubble is our academic system that teaches you to be an employee and doesn't teach you to how to basically use the system to your advantage. Like you can own a house now. You can own a house with very little money right now as a young person, and it's not that hard. And people make you think that it is because they make you, your parents, your professors, they make you think you need to live in a big city, be part of a big corporate system, work as an employee, 9-to-5 job, and be in like, live the way that they want you to live. But there's so many other ways to live. You can own a house. There's just like
you can own a business.
You can own a business. Like, they just don't teach you how to do that, because all they teach you is critical race theory and how to be a good 9-to-5 employee at a big company in New York City or DC or Chicago. But
yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll even go one further, right? I went to a fancy pants business school, right? So Pardes, you went to UCLA for undergrad, and I went to UCLA for business school.
Also.
Yeah, I went to Hopkins for business school, right? Okay, so I don't know if they might have taught you this at Hopkins. But when I was at Anderson at the UCLA Business School, is they even had like entrepreneurship classes and how to do this, how to this. And guess what they all came up with? What they all said. And this is like, at the time I was like, okay, this is it. 'Cause I was a military guy. I knew fuck all about business, really. And it was like, okay, what they always talked about was, well, if you want to do this, you have to get all this capital. You have to go talk to these like big venture capital, private equity. You have to stay within the system, right? Because these private equity guys are not out to make you rich, right? And it's like, no, you can actually do it on debt financing, on a loan, right? So, Pardes, you sell houses, obviously you coordinate with lenders, right? So, I mean, like, there's tons of great lending opportunities. And I bought, a mid-sized, a small business, which is about to become a mid-sized business, with like very little cash, a couple of small investors, and a loan, right? And then we grew it, did all these great things. It's fine. I didn't have to go to like the big private equity firms and get all this money and all this, because they want you to stay within that system. And that's like the craziest idea they think. Like, nobody actually really teaches you at that small level how to buy a business, how to sell a business, right? Like, they don't talk about that shit. They talk about like, being a good employee, moving up to the C-suite one day if you get the chance, or further if you go to, or maybe if you want to start your own business, you get a bunch of other rich people together, right? Bunch of their fellow friends, and you get their money and they control everything and you do all the work. And maybe if you're lucky, you get a little piece.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, same story. Like, they don't really teach you how to kind of go out on your own.
Yeah.
And I got lucky. I got a couple investors who, helped out with some things, but I mean, at the end of the day, I borrowed most of it, and you're able to do it successfully. So they don't talk about that. Nobody even talks about the Small Business Administration. Crazy. So anyways, that's you're absolutely right. You're totally indoctrinated into being a employee or otherwise a servant.
And Pardes, how would you personally think we can break out of that paradigm of being the employee and the servant? Would you have faith in, let's say, more decentralized kind of education platforms? And would you personally be interested in being a teacher in the future, like somebody who can pass on what you know to somebody else? Like, do you think that there's going to be a new decentralized model for something like that?
Yeah, I'm always telling my friends about what I know, and I think that people should stop going to college and start just going out, trying to learn on your own, finding mentors.
An internship. There you go.
Yeah,
There's
internship.
one too. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, speaking of speaking of going out on your own and pursuing your dreams and all that kind of stuff, we're gonna have somebody who lives by that model on Tuesday, August 24th. I just got the email response right now from him. You know who we're gonna have Tuesday, August 24th? Hotep Jesus.
Oh wow.
Nice.
That's
Wow.
gonna be
Congrats.
that's gonna
Nice.
be a fun one.
That's a big catch. Good for you. It's a big fish.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And
That
when
guy's,
it
that guy's
yeah,
got some wisdom. I don't agree
he-
with a lot of what he says, but it's like he has a lot of things he says. I'm like, yeah, dude's got a point. I like it.
absolutely. But also the
Yeah.
thing that I'm interested in with Hotep Jesus, and I'm also interested in, in general, is the power of one's thoughts to, make the impossible possible. And for yourself, Pardes, do you find that playing a role in your life when it comes to getting to where you are right now? How much willpower did it personally take to get away from the DC machine? Or how much was it just certain things that happened to start working in your favor and you were like, how did this happen? Why am I here all of a sudden? Like, do you find yourself at the control of the wheel, or do you find something else controlling it for you and you just ending up being where you are right now? It's like, how did I get here?
Yeah, I definitely feel in control of the wheel. Like coming here was definitely in my control. Yeah, I feel in control. Like I don't feel like the people that supported this idea were very valuable. I didn't wait to hear what anybody had to say. I don't know. I think like if everybody was doing it, everybody would be successful, but everybody is not doing it. So you just gotta find like those few people that are where you want to be and ask those people for advice and just forget about everybody else.
I actually have a follow-up to that one, Pardes. And so you and I have spoken about this personally offline. So if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, you can dodge it, no problem. But also, it's like I've noticed that, like, especially in the vein of like breaking rules and whatnot, right?
Oh, he said it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Like you've parted away from a lot of what your community, your family, your community does, and not in a really bad or like rebellious way, but like you grew up in a super traditional, Orthodox family, and it's and kind of didn't follow the rules, I'd say, in your own family. Obviously, I know you still have support from them. They love you, you love them, and you guys seem to get along and whatnot. But I mean, I was very proud of the fact that we hosted Pardes at Natalie at our house here for her very first Christmas. Just had Christmas. We had a Christmas tree and had presents and nice dinner.
Nice.
It was fun. And it was cool. But like also like how has that affected? I'm curious to know, Pardes, how that's affected you with like you've kind of broken the mold, I'd say, from most of your siblings and cousins and all that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it's gotten me. I feel closer with them because I feel more like a person because I'm like doing things I want to do and I respect myself more. So I feel more like an adult. I think it's part of just growing up. It's like finding yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Didn't want to get too personal there. It's fine. Yeah, no, I get it. No, that's right. No, right on. So, yeah.
But in terms of your family history, like if we go back, your family's originally from Iran, and
Yeah.
they're Sephardic Jewish, right?
Yeah.
And there is, I don't really know that many Sephardic Jews. I know that there's a big Sephardic Jewish community in the northern part of Brooklyn, like where they have all the nice houses over there. And in general, like how many generations does your family go back? Like that was since like after the thing that happened in Spain, after the Jewish people were kicked out of there, then they went to the Middle East. Like was that
They weren't kicked out. They chose to leave, Lev. That's
Oh God, Gio!
Us
Don't you start!
Mediterraneans,
Don't you
listen.
start! Damn it! Don't you
they
start!
chose to leave. Okay,
Don't
Lev.
you start!
They chose to leave. Don't tell me lie. Don't tell anti-Mediterranean lies, Lev. I will not have your Talmudic
You're
tricks.
Italian. You're Italian and not Spanish. You're Italian and not Spanish.
I know, but us Meds have to stick together.
No,
Anyways,
no, they don't
go-
because here's the thing. And Pardes, you know this
yeah,
well
Italians
enough.
and Spaniards don't really get along. That's
Not
very
only
true.
that, but you know
That's
who
true.
does get along? Italians and the Jews. The Italians and the Jews are match
Well,
made in
I
heaven.
don't know. I
yes,
mean,
yes.
there
You
is
know
that
this,
one.
Gio. You know
in
this
Venice,
to be true.
There is,
You know this to forget Venice. Forget Venice. So anyway, Pardes. When it comes to certain familial traditions, do you still stick with any of them, or have they all just not really like other than just like holidays and things like that, it's not really that much of a thing for you today, right? Or is it?
There are some things that I still do, like I don't know. I have to think about it. Like praying after the bathroom. It's not like, praying, it's more, it's just like a habit. I've been always doing it, and it's not like it's a good habit that I've chosen to keep. Like I kind of like it. I care a lot about my health, so I like to kind of appreciate it when I come out of the bathroom.
That is important. I mean, Gio, I think you and Pardes can definitely agree that prayer does have a certain amount of power, that you are in communication with. I don't know. I mean, again, my whole thing is there are all these planets and galaxies and shit out there that I think that there's other experiences people are having on those planets too. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the only planet and everything
So,
around
Lev,
us
you're
is just a
Mormon
show.
then? Is that what you're saying?
I think Mormonism is the closest one that I could actually find.
Oh, God.
But see, even there though, like they put Joseph Smith and Jesus Christ as being like and Adam actually. Like the one thing I really dig about Mormons is that they don't forget Adam. Like Adam is still, within there, and it seems like with the rest of Christendom, it's like, yeah, there was Adam, he was the first man, let's move on. And it's like they kind of focus more on Adam. And the other group of people that focuses on Adam is the Kabbalists. So with mystic Judaism, you have Adam Kadmon, which is this idea of like the prototypical human being, which is also a part of God, which was split up into all these different. It's like I think it's called the shattering of the vessels, or shattering of the vessel, where it was split up into all these different shards, and it's a metaphor for kind of like our consciousness being split up into different ego, bodies. You know what I mean?
I have to run.
See, I knew it was gonna be the metaphysical shit that would scare off.
Yeah, I
I'm
actually have to
kidding.
go soon too, Lev. So that's
No, it's not the metaphysical shit, but I have to go. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed being on with you guys.
I really enjoyed having you on as well, Pardes. And we are going to be concluding this with Tom right now. But guys, everybody, follow Pardes Seleh if you have not been following her before. She is a wonderful, how would you describe it? YouTuber, real estate agent, the full package. All of the above. And I am going to show Pardes' Twitter over here. Please follow her. And also, I am going to show Pardes' YouTube right now. Let me just type that in. Pardes, you are a wonderful person. You are somebody who I believe is doing the right thing. You are giving a good example to everybody else of, not being stuck in this DC or New York or whatever machinery, going off and pursuing your passion, being able to communicate with people while you're doing that. Here is your YouTube channel. Please, once again, everybody, follow Pardes, give her all the best, and also give a prayer, not just to Pardes, but to everybody who wants to get out of whatever paradigm they happen to be stuck in, so they can pursue what they want to pursue, just like Pardes is, because we all need that extra lift up, and I am going to do that tonight. I'm going to pray for everybody. I usually don't say this in public, but fuck it, why not,
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much, Pardes.
I just sweetheart. See ya.
Take care. So,
Bye.
so thank you so much. And guys, we are going to be concluding this pretty soon. I just want to do a quick shout out to not Discord, to Patreon, because as you know, we got a new patron today, and what you have to do is you have to become a patron too. Patreon.com/breaktherules. I am not yet sure if I'm going to be giving away this definitely legit magnet, because we did have a new magnet, $20 patron sign up, but just look at this one over here. This is definitely legit. Bark, bark, bark. I'm definitely legit, everybody. I may be going soon, so if you want me, become a patron today on patreon.com/breaktherules. Bark, bark, bark. And make sure to say in the message, make sure to write a message saying, I want the definitely legit magnet. Bark, bark, bark. There we go. So that may be the last time you're going to hear me doing that ridiculous fucking definitely legit impression. So if you don't want me to do that impression anymore, you better become a patron. or I may do it again, and maybe I'm gonna keep doing it until one of you people becomes a patron and gets definitely legit off my hands. So anyway, and it's probably gonna go, like, I'm not sure. I'm gonna message that person asking, do you want the definitely legit magnet, or do you want the random magnet? So we'll see what happens. But that's for $20. $5 is going to give you access to the super secret parts of the Discord, to MP3 files of the episodes after they come out, before everybody else gets them, audio only versions. You are also, on top of that, going to get Patreon-only exclusive episodes that you would get to take part in as well. This is what we do. We bring the patrons into the Patreon-only episodes so they can take part in those. And on the $30 tier, we already talked about the $30 gives you a beautiful print from Giovanni Pennacchietti. Look at him go. And Gio, we got a new $30 patron as well, as you know, and a $50 patron. So you're going to be busy. You're going to be busy sending things out. And
yeah.
There we go. Cyber Ninja Zero says this is extortion. Shut up. And for $50,
well, maybe it's kind of, I don't know. Yeah,
for $50, you are going to get all of the above. Plus, you're going to get a beautiful painting from Gio. You're going to get a beautiful figure from the Warhammer 40k series from Jules. You are going to get another custom magnet from my father, Alexander Polyakov, whatever design you want, I mean, within reason. And you are also going to get a, if you want to, you got to request this, a custom printout of any of the thumbnails that my father created. So there we go. That is what you get. And there's going to be a lot more things coming in. Oh, and one more thing. Let's see. Okay, I'm not going to mention it right now. But anyway, Hotep Jesus, I already said that. We have a lot of great guests coming up. And Tom Sauer, what is going to be up for you within the next weeks, within the next month? What do you have planned, my friend?
I'm going, I'm going to be in, well, actually, I don't think I say exactly where, but for a bachelor party for my good buddy Will Chamberlain. So it's myself and Jack Posobiec are planning it. So it's me, Jack, Will, and a couple other friends of Will's, a couple from back home and whatnot. And yeah, it'll be fun. We'll be, actually, I can say so. Yeah, we'll be in Vegas, of course. So Will used to be, of course, in Vegas, it's super basic. And first we were kind of like, Vegas, it's kind of eh. But Will was actually a professional poker player back in the day before, he's doing stuff. So he actually is into Vegas. So it's fun, even though none of us are real big partiers, at least not anymore. So it'll be fun. So we're going to see, I was able to score tickets. We'll do Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle on Friday night. And then next Friday. And then the following night is the McGregor Fourier fight. So it's not easy to score those tickets. So it's cool. We got good seats too. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be cool.
Beautiful.
So it'll be in Vegas. And it'll be. I don't know how. Jack is best man. He's supposed to plan it. Somehow it all got pawned off on me. Whatever. That's fine. We had a good time. It'll be fun. So I got that coming up this weekend. And then my brother, my little brother, who's stationed in Bahrain. He's an EOD guy like I used to be. He's coming home. Him and his wife and kids coming home for a few weeks. It'll be in Virginia Beach. So I'm going out there. And I do think it was funny because I do catch up on the comments. And I'm just kind of like, hey, you're right. Was he this war criminal and all those terrible things? Yeah. I mean, I guess so, depending on your definition. Did he do a lot of bad things? Yeah. In that moment, I mean, it's really easy to blame him. That's all that. But the thing is, it's like, hey, some people actually, there's something to learn from some people, right? A lot of the time. So,
Well, it's more of a question for me of, do people have enough skin in the game, as Nassim Taleb terms it? That's the big one right there. Because if people,
really good, yeah, that's a good thing. I would like to see. That's something I say. I like Michael Malice. I'm a huge fan of. I wish I got to speak to him more often. But is he, talks about it'd really be nice to see some of our public officials, right, face specific personal consequences for their actions. I'm not saying they need to be killed or thrown in jail or like that, but to see real skin in the game, you'd see that because really. For so many people, whether this is a corporate CEO, whether this is members of Congress, whatever, some of the decisions they make have catastrophic consequences. If it's done either negligently or maliciously, then it's okay, what's the worst thing happens? You still get to retire and you get a nice pension or you got your money and everything's
golden
fine.
Parachute. Yeah.
But at the same time, though, the counter argument to that is look, when a lot of these big CEOs and board members and stuff are part of these huge organizations, right? Like if you don't offer massive incentive to these folks, they're not going to take the job. They're just not, right? I mean, they're not. Like that's why they have that. That's why they get paid a shit ton of money, you know? So that's kind of it, you know, if you know, the CEO of a company got paid the same as the line worker or, you know, a little bit more, then I mean, that's just kind of like a general capitalism thing. Then like, who are you going to have to do that?
Well,
Who's
they
getting
could be
all that
paid a lot.
responsibility?
They could be paid a lot, but then there could be certain big prices to be paid if certain things are done. But the problem today is that there may be like 1,000 things that are completely legal that you wouldn't put people in jail for, that if we look at it very closely, we could say, hey, maybe all these things are leading to a lot of problems for a lot of people. How do we solve that? Because that just seems to be such a complicated thing. I mean, no wonder people want to kind of throw over the chess pieces and say, we're going to just get a strong man in. Because again, like going back to what Gio said, if there... Yes, well, if there is, I know, Gio, you're not a big fan of Pennacchietti, because different reasons that normal people would not be big fans of him.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I get it.
No, but I want to focus on this because I think this is very important. Like Gio, the person, like the ideal thing that you want to have happen. What is it? Let's just like lay it out on the table. I don't have an ideal
thing. That's the problem. I mean, it's getting to I don't know. My mind is wandering. I don't really have an ideal system. There is no ideal system because by default I believe that this earth is not meant to achieve any sort of paradise, so I don't know.
Okay, well then that's a whole other ball game then. But
something else out there. Oh, okay.
Yeah, go.
If I may, real quick.
Yeah.
So one of the things you usually see quite often, and this is me going full Jordan Peterson on things, right? Is like before you try, set your own house in order before you try to change the world, right? That's something that I've like really tried to focus on. And even though like I'm somebody who I guess like just kind of friends are involved in media and politics, I do some stuff on Twitter. I was on a talk show. I was on Seb Gorka's show earlier this afternoon, like whatever. But like I don't get paid for this. This is something kind of a hobby. I love coming on shows, talking to you guys like you. It's something I enjoy, right?
Thank you.
But the thing is, though, is that the thing is that when I see all these folks who are like so loud, screaming, angry people talking about how the whole world is fucked up, and hey, look, they could be right. Okay, I'm sure quite often they have a point. This is the way we do things, right? But it's like set your own house in order. Usually, the people that are screaming, the biggest critics, haven't done shit themselves. I know it sounds awful, but it's like, how's your program working out? So it's one of those things where it's like I try to focus a little bit more on like, hey, what am I doing to set my own house order with my own mind, my own body, like creating what's good for me and my family and the people that are close to me, right? And like, okay, once I set this in order, then I can say, okay, what about something outside of my community, right? If that's doing well, okay, maybe there's a chance for me to do something a little bit bigger. But usually the people who are the biggest critics calling for this massive change, everything's got to stay, do everything, haven't accomplished a fucking thing in their lives. Or yet to. Maybe they're too young, they're too idealistic, I don't know. And it's like, that's kind of one of the general things out there. And it's like, look, and this is just one of those things where it's like, I'm usually very careful about like criticizing, this is getting Jordan Peterson about it, criticizing institutions, right? When it's like, you don't really know, you're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that kind of thing. Like, doesn't mean doesn't need to be changed. Doesn't mean it's not fucked up. Doesn't mean there's not things that need to happen. But it's like I usually look at the folks who are the loudest screaming, like haven't really accomplished anything themselves. It just is,
I don't know. I think
that's why I disregard them. I don't listen to them.
Well, you know who you should speak with. I think it would be an amazing podcast in the future to have with yourself, Tom, and Joel Davis.
Okay.
What do you think, Gio?
Oh my God, that'd be.
I don't know who he is.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So Joel Davis.
Comments. I'm sure I am. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. So how would you describe him, Gio?
Well, he's a podcaster himself and an intellectual. Okay. But
sure.
I don't know. That would be.
But he's from a lot more of a reactionary position than a lot of people are. And this is something, like, the reason why I keep bringing this up with him and the reason why I give him such a hard time is because I think, like, he's a
Because you find his ideas particularly offensive, Lev.
Well, here's the thing. He is a bright young man, but the problem is that when it comes to supporting certain things, my biggest concern is that, like, I generally believe that people, even though they think that, oh, we're just a bunch of weirdos on the internet, and like we were talking about before, how much people are really paying attention. Maybe not much right now, but like certain things that have happened throughout history, everything kind of started with like a small group of people who had an idea. So the question there is that when you have people who would not mind as much if there was some kind of a imperium, some kind of a dictator coming in and ruling over, seeing that as being better than whatever's happening right now, it's very easy to talk about it. And the biggest problem happens, I think, like when people just freely and easily talk about it without considering the alternatives, and it creates just like this closed echo chamber, which is why I'm very grateful for the fact that Joel comes on BTR. But I think it would be very interested, if you're interested, to have the two of you guys.
I feel like you're talking mad smack about him, Lev. I feel like
no, I'm being completely honest with. I've never said anything.
There's a value in
him.
critique. I mean, there's a value because I think that. There's sort of like an impermeable wall between the average person or the average person of means and actual political change. And so critique in a lot of ways is really the only thing that we have. And so, I mean, apart from just like the general improving one's own life and one's own community, of course, obviously, but I think that in terms of ideas, I don't know, it's...
Because it's not just critique and that's it. It's critique and then there's proposition. I critique this and I propose this particular alternative. And that's the thing that kind of gets me here, where I know, Gio, you know that I am honest when I speak about Joel. I don't hide what I believe. And like I said before, I think he's a very smart guy, which is particularly why I think it's very much worth his time and our time to be able to speak to him about this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know.
You said his name is?
Joel Davis. Here, I'll post.
Yeah, I'll look him up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll look him up. And actually, unfortunately, guys, I do have to run. Natalie just stepped in the doorway and she was holding up a plate with a burger on it, and she's wearing a swimsuit. So I'm like, all right, that's good, guys.
There you go.
So, all right, I gotta go.
Yeah,
but,
I have to go too.
Burger,
so
hamburger.
But no, hey, this is awesome. Look forward to. I'll look this guy up, and next time he's on, love to do it. And also, I think we're doing Jack Murphy.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice.
Yeah, it'd be good. Jack's a good dude. Really good
Excellent.
dude. I like him
I'm
a lot.
looking forward to that. Yeah, so here is Joel's Twitter, by the way. I posted in the BTR chat for you, so check that out. Let me know what you think. And there we go. So, guys, we are going to be ending the stream. But first, as you go, Tom, I'm going to post your Twitter as well.
Sure.
And also, as you go, I am going to start talking about the later things that we're going to have on the show. So, everybody follow
I look forward
Tom.
to the hate tweets. Fine.
No, I think everybody loves you, Tom. I think that you are one of the most eloquent people and you actually pay attention to the fucking chat, which is very different from a lot of people. Usually people just...
Usually we discourage people from paying attention to the chat.
YouTube comments are usually the worst. Yeah, no, it's entertaining to say the least. But so hi haters, it's fine. Okay, that's great.
Yes.
I kind of get a chuckle out of it. All right, but I gotta run. And all right, guys, take it. It's good times, and look forward. We'll talk soon, and look forward to talking to Joel and also talking to Jack again soon. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
See you, my friend.
All right, take care.
Take care.
So here is what we have coming up on Break the Rules. We have, I'm going to be Monday, July 5 at 4 p.m. I am going to be on Gennady Stolyarov's Salon show. So that is coming up. The Futurist Sessions, that's going to be a lot of fun. Well, no, it's not. Let me tell you exactly what it's called because I do not want to mince words about that. And also we have Tuesday, July 6th, I Hypocrite coming up. That's going to be a very big one. I'm very excited about that. Yes. So
I think that's going to be more laid back. We're going to dunk on some people.
Yes, and that's going to be 8 p.m. Then we are going to have over here, we're going to have Uncle Doomer Thursday, July 8th. That's going to be a lot of fun. And we are going to have the Fed. Okay, well, I'm going to be on the Fed post, actually, but that's going to be not a live stream. That's going to be a podcast. That's going to be coming up.
You made it to the Fed post before me?
What are you gonna do?
Jesus.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Anyway.
Oh, I love how you said that. What am I gonna do?
What am I gonna do?
I don't know. I mean,
Okay, next we have Tuesday, July 13th, Jack Murphy, like we were talking about before. Then we should have it. I mean, I'm waiting for Ayala Girl to give the final confirmation. I mean, she did not say no. She did not say no. So that's going to be Thursday, July 15th. Reverse debate on pornography with Brittany Venti and Ayala Girl. Woo! That's gonna be quite something. And then we're gonna have coming up Travis Brown from the Signal Productions. That's gonna be Tuesday, July 20. Then hopefully for Tuesday, July 22, we're gonna have Jonathan Peugeot and Uber Boyo talking about Nietzsche. Although that may be moved to a later date, we gotta see. We're gonna have Tuesday, July 27th. E-Girl event. And I think Brittany Venti should be joining us for that one. And guys, you got to take the grill pill this summer. I guarantee you are not going to regret that. What that means is we are going to be grilling live. We are going to be... Gio, you better break out the grill, my friend. You better put the camera right where the grill is and have an outdoor grilling extravaganza. And it's going to turn into a mukbang later on as well. Then we are going to have Thursday, July 29th, we are going to have Kenny Zhu coming in. Have you heard of Kenny Zhu? So
Who is Kenny Zhu?
He is the author of a book that's coming out right now. You can pre-order it. It's called An Inconvenient Minority: The Attack on Asian American Excellence in the Fight for Meritocracy.
Okay.
So coming from a journalist on the front lines of the Students for Fair Admission versus Harvard case. You remember that one with Harvard not allowing the Asian students to get in there? You remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of affirmative action. The false narrative of American meritocracy and the attack on Asian American excellence with its far-reaching implications, from seedy test prep centers to gleaming gifted and talented magnet schools to top colleges in elite business, media, and political positions across America. Even in the midst of a nationwide surge of bias and incidents against them, Asians from coast to coast have quietly assumed mastery of the nation's technical and intellectual machinery and become essential American workers, yet they've been forced to do so in the face of policy proposals written in the name of diversity, excluding them from the upper ranks of the elite. In An Inconvenient Minority, journalist Kenny Zhu traces elite America's long-standing unease about a minority potentially upending them, leftist agendas such as eliminating standardized testing, doling out racial advantages to preferred minorities, and lumping Asians into privileged categories despite their deprived historical experiences have spurred Asian Americans to act. So anyway, that is coming up, Kenny Zhu, Thursday, July 29th. Then we are going to have... Who are we going to have? Okay, here we go. We are going to have Wilford Riley coming in Thursday, August 5. We are hopefully going to have Chad Haig coming in August 10th. And we're going to have Turkey Tom. Gobble, 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 gobble. We got Turkey Tom coming in Thursday, August 12th.
Oh, yeah!
We're
going to fucking go after...
I want to buy some...
certain ghouls on YouTube in that stream.
I mean,
we're going to totally destroy them.
I just want to buy some turkeys. Like, I just want to buy, like, some turkey toys. You know,
by the way,
figures of turkeys.
Big fuck you to iDubbbz and all of his fans. Big fuck you to H3H3. Big fuck you to all of that OnlyFans thought that he married. Total sham. And fuck you to all the people saying touch grass and have sex in my mentions and all the pronouns that discovered my tweet. So I had to go on lock. Fuck you all. Never mind. I'm not gonna fed post, but sorry, it's getting late. It's getting
And then we're gonna have Patriot J Tuesday, August 17th, and then we are gonna have Thursday, August 19th. Jason Giorgiani. We're gonna talk about aliens, Agartha. We are gonna go all out. So, and of course, we are gonna have Hotep Jesus coming in right after Giorgiani, Tuesday, August 24th.
Amazing.
That is going to be amazing. Amazing. Okay, so everybody, this is it. This is the end of the stream. Thank you very much for watching. As always, subscribe, keep subscribing, send this to your friends, send this to everybody. We are simultaneously streaming this on YouTube, on DLive, on Twitch, on Odyssey, on Facebook. Can you believe we're streaming on Facebook and nobody's joining Facebook, which is bullshit. I know some of you people have boomer parents and you still communicate with them on Facebook, which is why you have to become a part of our Facebook page. So it's it's very simple. Facebook.com/break the rules, with the 3 in there instead of the E. I'm posting it right now. So all of you people, you don't have to tell me who you are. I'm just going to see, regular people with a nice family in their photos on, joining it. And I'm going to know that, yeah, this is one of our people. This is one of the great Break the Rules watchers who I love. And even though I know that Gio and I may be like, I'm like the strict parent and Gio's like the parent that gives out all the candy, all the hard candies. Despite that,
candy. That was a great film before Elliot transitioned.
I never saw that
where
film.
Elliot chops a cheese pizzaist. Makes him chop his thing off, Lorena Bobbitt style. No, it was a great film, Hard Candy.
Well, it was also. I know you're not a big fan of Tim and Eric, but they had this sketch called My New Pep Pep, where they had this grandfather doll, which delivered like hard candy.
Oh, I think my friend Chris told me about this.
Through his hand.
Yeah.
And is that like a thing? Like, do old people particularly like giving like very hard candies?
Depends. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly. Yeah, like what the older people delivered during Trick or Treat and Halloween. But whatever it was, God bless them. Even if the candies were hard to chew, at least they made the effort, right? And at the end of the day, that's what that counts. I mean, I love
the effort.
I love my grandparents. You love yours. Why are we even talking about this? We have to end.
Anyways, we gotta go. I have to go actually. So.
Yes, this is the end of the stream. Everybody subscribe. Keep subscribing. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
God bless.